Hi guys, it's me, HD, and welcome to the Practice 2 watch-along for the Japanese Grand Prix weekend. Hope you guys are all doing well. Of course, if you did join me a couple hours ago for Practice 1, hello again. If you're joining me for the first time this weekend, for the Grand Prix weekend, hope you are doing well. And no matter how good this race is, of course, in Japan in terms of timing, wherever you are in the world and whatever time zone you're in, hope you're all having as best a day as possible. Yeah, Practice 2 will be getting underway in just under 15 minutes' time. Now, of course, this stream not going to be super long as the usual streams we do on this channel, but I do need to confess that because I've been awake for quite a while, and that's deliberate to try and change my sleeping pattern to help my streaming this weekend, given that I am in the UK for this, try and watch this Japanese Grand Prix. Yeah, I will confess that in or during this stream, I am going to be quite tired. So do bear with me during the stream if I do sound a bit groggy or, sometimes if I'm yawning. It's not because I'm bored necessarily, but yeah, I've been awake for nearly 24 hours now. So I should be fine. I mean, the stream's not going to be that long. So yeah, I should get through this just fine. But Practice 1, of course, took place and finished about, 2 hours and 15 minutes ago. And it was an okay session. I don't think really anyone was pushing that hard out there, even the man and the team that ended up P1 in the end. But yeah, before we get into this session in particular, let's get into the results from Practice 1. I'll just hide the timer for a second. And yeah, let's get into the results quickly. Max Verstappen ended up quickest on a 1:31.6 and was quickest by 0.6 of a second to the next car being the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz, of course, the race winner last week in Singapore. Third, Lando Norris, 3/4 of a second off Verstappen. And then Leclerc fourth, Tsunoda, very impressive. And AlphaTauri overall, very impressive in fifth. With Lawson, you've got down there in ninth. And then you've got Alonso in sixth place. And then Piastri seventh, Albon eighth, Lawson ninth, and Lance Stroll in P10. And the bottom half of the order, Sergio Perez 11th. Perez's pace was quite poor compared to Verstappen's in the first practice session. And then you had Gasly 12th. Alpine don't look that great already. George Russell 13th. Mercedes, though, they did their best times of practice 1 on the medium compound tyre. Everyone else, except for Alfa Romeo, did their best times on the soft compound. So important to remember that when it comes to how Mercedes performed in first practice. And then you've got Hülkenberg 14th, Ocon 15th, Hamilton on the medium 16th, Bottas 17th on the medium, Magnussen 18th, Sargent 19th, and Zhou last, again on the medium compound tyre. So yeah, I think maybe, with Red Bull, and before I actually go any further, let me make sure I get the timer back on screen, as we've got about 11 minutes to go now until practice 2 starts at Suzuka. I mean, yeah, you could probably argue that there is a slight pattern already forming from just one practice session we have seen this weekend. Red Bull do look to be already a lot better than what we saw in Singapore. Even in the first practice session in Singapore, they didn't look as good as they looked after just first practice here at Suzuka. AlphaTauri as well, looking very strong. I did say coming into the weekend that I thought they'd be the dark horse here at Suzuka. And yeah, they clearly look like they are, or they have a decent car so far for this track. So that is looking good. But yeah, other than that, I can't really sit here and say that, a clear pattern is forming for this Grand Prix this weekend. We will find out a lot more in this practice 2 session, coming up. And by the way, if you did tune in to my practice 1 stream, you would have heard towards the end of that stream I was talking about how it was splitting with rain at the end of first practice. Good news, there is no rain currently at the track. It is a bit blustery, but the sun has come out and it is quite I think the track temperature is quite warm. I think 35 plus degrees Celsius. So yeah, the weather's fine other than a slight bit extra wind compared to ideal conditions for the drivers. Yeah, that's all good, which is good, so we can actually see in the dry who is on pace, looking good, and just on pace how the entire field looks. Because you have to remember, qualifying and the race this weekend is going to be dry. This weekend there isn't really a threat of rain for qualifying and the race, especially the race on Sunday. So yeah, it would be nice if we had a fully dry practice too. But still, as I said in my build up to practice 1 that I did a couple hours ago, Ferrari with their upgrade to the floor that they've brought this weekend, I'm still looking out to see what they do. Obviously, Red Bull, further whether any issues with Singapore with the rear end of the car, whether that's carried over to this Grand Prix. Other than that, though, I think in general it's just looking out to see where certain teams are on pace for this Grand Prix weekend. And of course, we'll find out a bit more once the session gets underway in about 8 minutes time. Of course, during the stream, even though again this is not going to be a super long stream, if you do want to ask any questions or post any comments, thoughts in general in the live chat, make sure to do so, and I will try and read some out during the stream itself. But hello to all you guys watching. Hope you're all doing well. And just a quick reminder before we get into practice 2 that I will be live later today at 8 p.m. UK time for the 2023 Japanese Grand Prix qualifying preview. And normally, of course, I do on a Friday night before qualifying. That will still be happening in 13 hours from now, something like that. So yeah, that will still be happening. And then of course I'll be doing a practice 3 and qualifying watch along on Saturday morning, this time tomorrow, and then on Sunday morning, race watch along, and Monday night a weekend review. So plenty of content coming your way, and of course make sure to join me for all of that if you can. But yeah, we are just a few minutes away from the start of second practice. So yeah, before we get into the session, let me just quickly have a look on Twitter to see if there's any news to bring you. Of course, in my qualifying preview later, we will probably get into the data from practice 2, sector time data, and go a bit more in depth with the data in general than we will. Then once we get to the end of practice 2 session, but also we'll get into in quite a bit more depth the car upgrades, not just of the visual analysis of the upgrades, but also just going through the official document showing who has brought what upgrades exactly. We'll be doing that in the stream later tonight. But yeah, let me just have a quick look on Twitter to see if there is any news to bring you guys. And no, can't see anything at the minute. Oh, actually, there was a piece of news. I don't know if I've told you guys about this before, but with the whole talk about Andretti coming onto the Formula One grid, there was also talk of another team possibly entering, which was rumored to be from Southeast Asia, I believe. Let me just try and find the name of this team exactly, so I can quickly read out this story. We can just quickly touch on it before get into what do you call it? Before we get into this session. And right, it's so I don't know if it's the name of the organization or if this is actually the name of the team, but the name is LKY Sun. Again, I don't know if that's the name of the team or what, but that's the name given. And the announcement from that organization, I guess, is that they claim to have secured a record $1 billion investment for a Formula One entry for 2026. And it says the Asian-based racing team is prepared to pay a $600 million entry fee to compete in Formula One. Of course, the reason they're talking about $600 million entry fee as opposed to, I think, what the current entry fee is, which is a bit lower, because the teams want to raise the entry fee quite a bit higher. They don't believe it's high enough. But yeah, that's the claim that's been made. Whether that is actually true, whether they're going to be on the grid or not, who knows? What's going to happen with that. But that's the announcement I saw on Twitter. I found out about it in between practice 1 and practice 2. So, I mean, if it's true and they are a legitimate outfit, then that's great. Really great news. Have Andretti and that team as well on the grid. That's 24 cars. That's, I think, ideally what most people want in Formula One. I know the current teams don't want it because they just don't want to lose, their slice of the pie, slice of the cake, let's say. But yeah, it's what's best for the sport. So let's hope it is a legitimate organization and a legitimate entry. But of course, we're not going to find out yet, whether they are legitimately going to be, in Formula One. In terms of entries for 2026 from Andretti or that team I just mentioned, we're not going to hear about that really, I think, until probably midway through 2024, I think, officially, when it comes to those particular teams. But the F1 intro has played, and we are, 90 seconds, probably less than that now, away from the beginning of second practice. So, we come away from this and go on to this. Again, apologies about the pictures being from Singapore, but I didn't have enough time to get enough pictures from practice 1 to be able to, throw up on screen a load of pictures from first practice sessions. So yeah, you'll have to put up, unfortunately, pictures from Singapore. But of course, practice 2, it will be an hour-long session. Yeah, this is where we'll get to find out how the teams are looking going into qualifying tomorrow at the exact time where qualifying will be starting tomorrow. Obviously 7 a.m. for us in the UK, but it will be 4 p.m. local time, something like that. There is Fernando Alonso in the garage waiting to come out. As weather's been decent. It's not been anything special. There has been a few drops of rain, but yeah, it's been decent weather at Suzuka. Just showing Ed Kravitz in the pit lane. Yeah, we'll get into this session for proper in a moment. Good morning to Nib, by the way. Good to see you, mate. Hello to Kiefer as well. Nib saying, yeah, because 200 or 250 million clearly isn't high enough. Everyone against it. Former King Zach Brown, always like that guy. They've also saying he believes it's 2 p.m. local time. Yeah, I think practice, what do you call it? Practice 1, I think, started possibly at 11:30 local time. So, yeah, maybe, I'm not sure. As Lewis Hamilton is about to come out on track on the prototype tyre, the test tyre, which according to Pirelli is basically just, a test version of the C2 compound, which this weekend is the medium compound tyre. Pirelli have brought the C3, C2, and C1 compounds for this weekend. And just to remind you guys again about watching earlier about the tyre difference, the soft compound tyre should be about half a second quicker than the medium, but then the medium should be probably about a second quicker than the hard compound tyre, given the massive jump in performance from the C2 to the C1. So yeah, we'll keep our eyes on that as the session goes. But the session is underway. Got quite a few cars on track, half the field on track. Quite a traffic jam coming through to the first Degner. Yeah, get our first laps underway in a few moments' time. Kiefer saying in the chat, if Andretti comes in, there are chances the likes of Vettel and Raikkonen to come back again. I don't think that's going to happen. Kimi Raikkonen definitely isn't coming back. I don't think he's coming back, to be honest. And Sebastian Vettel, I mean, if he comes back, it's going to be probably with Audi. But even if, even if he doesn't go to Audi, I don't think he's going to Andretti. It'd be quite the surprise. But I personally, I don't think Sebastian Vettel is coming back. I think permanently retired. Anyway, here is Yuki Tsunoda on the hard compound tyre was 5th. Tsunoda in practice 1. AlphaTauri looked pretty quick. Can they keep it up? Second practice to illustrate. Maybe AlphaTauri have got a pretty strong car at Suzuka. And of course, if they do, great news for the home favourite, Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda just coming through the exit of the final chicane now. Begins his first lap time. The second, he'll begin his first lap time of second practice. Great attendance, by the way, for practice too from the Japanese fans who, as I said in my first practice stream, they are the best fans, F1 fans in the world, as far as I'm concerned. And they have been for a very long time. As Tsunoda coming through the S's, doesn't look like he's pushing that hard, to be honest. The best first sector time in practice 1 was a 32.0. Tsunoda just did a 33.9, so just shows you how low it is. Tsunoda is just coming through the hairpin now, taking a bit of a wider line, which is not really that bad of a line to take. I think that's one thing I do like about the hairpin here at Suzuka, is you don't have to take one particular line. Boone Tsunoda was complaining at the start of practice 1 about understeer. Clearly, we're able to fix that. Car looking definitely better than the car of first practice. As Tsunoda is just now coming to the end of the lap into the final chicane. Not a great entry to the chicane, but it's okay. Not supposed to be a quick lap, this one. Comes across the line and does a 1:35.0 and only goes 10th. I will update the order once they actually start showing it on the screen. But at the moment, they're not showing it, so I can't tell you what it is. Here is Esteban Ocon in the Alpine on the prototype compound, who is doing a lap time at the moment. Valtteri Bottas is currently quickest on a 1:33.1. That time was done on the prototype tyre. Esteban Ocon going 7th with that lap. But, yeah, Bottas P1, Sergio Perez, medium, I believe, going in second place. Is Lewis Hamilton there, losing the rear end of his car on the exit of the second Degner and asking his team, is the floor okay? Team responding, we'll have a look. I like that camera, by the way, that they've got over his shoulder. A bit of a weird camera, but it's still nice. Anyway, let me get this order correct on screen. So it is, yeah, Bottas P1, Perez P2, Albon in 3rd, Carlos Sainz is in 4th, with Alonso in 5th. Then you've got Lewis Hamilton 6th, Esteban Ocon is 7th for Alpine. Then you've got Lando Norris. Let me clear my throat again. Yeah, Lando Norris in 8th place. And 9th, you've got Kevin Magnussen. Oscar Piastri, by the way, is on his first time to run a practice 2. Has done a purple first sector. Yeah, Magnussen 9th. Then Lance Stroll in P10. And then you've got Leclerc 11th. Russell in 12th. Then, well, Russell's not 12th anymore. So now Nico Hulkenberg. Then Russell 13th. Joe in 14th. With Lawson in 15th. Gasly 16th. Sargent 17th. Tsunoda 18th. And then Verstappen and Piastri, the only drivers not to do a time so far, as Logan Sargent goes up to 15th. Oscar Piastri, though, about to complete what probably is going to be the quickest lap so far in this session. No, it's a quarter of a second slower. Valtteri Bottas' time. Yeah, the quickest time of the weekend so far, a 31.6. 1 minute 31.6. So that is what keep your eye on in terms of lap time in this session, as George Russell improves up to 7th place. Max Verstappen, purple first sector, no surprise there. Max out there on the soft compound tyre. So he's going aggressive early. Is Max, as Liam Lawson has just gone up to 6th place on the hard compound tyre. As Carlos Sainz now up to P2. Max Verstappen, another purple sector. This is going to be the quickest lap of the session. Will it be the quickest lap of the weekend so far? Don't think it will be. But he comes to the line. And it is actually the quickest lap of the weekend so far. A 1:31.3. That is, what, 0.3 of a second quicker than he went in practice 1. And that's only his first lap of practice 2. Ominous signs from Verstappen and Red Bull. Verstappen P1, and Sergio Perez has just gone up to 2nd on the medium compound tyre. Yeah, Verstappen definitely looking a lot more back to normal. And of course, that's because the Red Bull car is back to normal. Work going on to the front of the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso. Yeah, Gasly now on a quick lap on the medium compound as Lando Norris has gone second for McLaren and Charles Leclerc has gone third for the Ferrari team. Norris doing that time on the medium. Leclerc doing his on the what do you call it? The test tire, whatever you want to call it. Prototype, test compound, test tire, prototype tire, compound, whatever. We have to come up with a million different names for it. Yeah, Gasly just coming into the spoon curve. Alpine looking pretty good through there, actually. Problem for the Alpine, though, is it just doesn't have the top speed in the second half of the lap to have good enough pace. Gasly 2 seconds slower than Verstappen in the after the first 2 sectors. I know he's on a harder tyre on the medium, but still, that is quite bad. Yeah, Gasly probably going to go, I don't know, 13th, 14th, something like that. I know he actually goes P7. Does the gas man. So Gasly up to 7th place. But yeah, it's Verstappen, Norris, Leclerc, Perez, Bottas, Sainz, Gasly, Piastri, Albon, Lewis Hamilton in the top 10. Lawson, Alonso, Russell, Ocon, Magnussen, Zhou, Stroll, Hulkenberg, Sargent, and Tsunoda. Oscar Piastri on the medium compound on a better lap. Lando, 3/4 of a second slower than Verstappen on a step harder compound. That's not that bad of a lap time. Lando. Piastri on a good lap here. Coming through the final chicane as Esteban Ocon impressively goes up to 5th place on the medium compound. Piastri goes 3rd. So 2nd and 3rd for McLaren. And yeah, Ocon now in 6th place. As here is the special Gulf liveried still Williams of Alex Albon on the medium compound. And he goes 3rd. With a purple final sector. I did say Williams, I think, are going to be quick this weekend. But that was a stunning final sector. Just a replay here of Tsunoda getting all out of shape through the hairpin. It's a replay of Magnussen getting distracted possibly by a car ahead, being, the Ferrari there of, I think, Carlos Sainz. Is it Carlos Sainz? Yeah, I think it is. Sainz had gone deep into turn 1 and turn 2 and then just kind of, I don't know, hovered. Yeah, good lap that was from Alex Albon. Anyway, here is Carlos Sainz now out on track on a set of medium compound tyres. Let's see what he can do. As Yuki Tsunoda goes 11th for AlphaTauri. And Zhou has gone up to 12th. Sadly, Sky have cut away from the actual broadcast to show Karun Chandhok trackside at turn 1 and turn 2. So I can't tell you about Carlos Sainz's laps. So I'll tell you in a minute or so. Hello to Vinster, who says, hey, from 2 a.m. for me in Florida. Nib saying, I can actually remember Ericsson putting in some good performances, out of which I can remember 0 for Giovinazzi. Well, the reason I think Giovinazzi is better than Ericsson is because, and I know it wasn't prime Kimi Raikkonen, but Antonio, there was a decent portion of no, 2020, 2021, also the back end of 2019, where he was faster, at least in qualifying, compared to Kimi Raikkonen. The problem was the Alfa Romeo was just really slow during that time, and he couldn't, you know, what couldn't really, how's best to describe it? The car performance wasn't good enough for him to be able to show how truly good he was. I think because he didn't start off great in F1, did Giovinazzi, but once he got up to speed, the pace of his car just dropped off a cliff. I do remember a really good race he had in Saudi Arabia, which I think was the penultimate race of his career, where I think he finished in where he was running in 6th or 7th place for a while. I remember that. I think there was another race as well in Zandvoort where I think he qualified 7th or 8th. But yeah, if only the car had not dropped off the pace as much as it did, I think people would have, shown Giovinazzi a bit more, or not respect, but they would have praised him a bit more. Anyway, Charles Leclerc now second, Carlos Sainz third. Both Ferraris doing those lap times on the medium compound tyre. Leclerc only a third of a second slower than Max Verstappen on a harder compound. So that's a good lap time from the Ferrari of Leclerc. But Max Verstappen is back out on track, so we'll see if he's going to try and do another quick one. As Valtteri Bottas, seeing a replay of him locking up on the prototype compound. And here's Perez doing the same at the final chicane, going a bit too deep. High vis paint on the back of the Red Bull. Air's flowing with the new floor that they're trying out again that they brought in Singapore. Alex Albon saying, after running a bit too wide on the exit of the second Degner, there's for sure floor damage. So, presumably, and yeah, he is back in the pit lane. But at the moment, it is Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Norris, and then Perez in 5th, and then Albon 6th, Alonso is 7th for Aston Martin, and then Piastri, Ocon, and Lance Stroll complete the top 10, and then you've got Bottas, Gasly, Tsunoda, Zhou, Magnussen, Hamilton, Lawson, Russell, Hulkenberg, and Sargent. 20 minutes in, second practice, and George Russell is now on the soft compound tyre. Let's see what Mercedes have got. This is the first time they're using this compound. And the first sector is half a second slower than Verstappen. Surprised loss speed. That dramatic a loss of speed compared to Red Bull. Russell through the hairpin. Car handling looks okay. Nothing special. Now, very quickly approaching the spoon curve. And through there, car handling perfectly. Let's see what his middle sector will be like. And through the middle sector, nearly 7/10 of a second down. Not too bad of a middle sector, I have to say, though. It was only, 10th and a half or so slower than the Red Bull. As Logan Sargent goes all the way up to 5th place. And George Russell goes 3rd, which is not very good, considering Leclerc 2nd did his time, which is 3.5 tenths quicker than the time Russell has just done. Leclerc did his time on the medium compound, so that is not a good time from Russell. Logan Sargent is now now that Russell has done that lap. Sargent now 6th. There's Lewis Hamilton now on a quick lap on the soft compound tyre. He has gone a tenth of a second slower, though, than Russell in the first sector. So this is not exactly looking to be a great lap. Liam Lawson, I've seen, has improved up to 13th. Bottas is 14th. Gasly 15th. And then Tsunoda, Joe, Magnussen, Hamilton, Hulkenberg. Hamilton, though, is very soon about to improve. Middle sector is, not great. And he's 0.2 of a second slower than George Russell on this lap. So this is probably going to put Hamilton 6th, 7th, 8th, something like that, as he exits the final chicane. Car looking pretty good through there. Comes to the line, and it is 6th. And he's 0.2 of a second slower for the lap compared to Russell. But yeah, that is not a great lap time from both Mercedes there on the soft tyre in comparison to the others around them that have done their best times on the medium. For example, Ferrari, 2nd and 4th on the medium compound. Lando Norris 5th on the medium. Alex Albon in 9th. Only what? 0.3 of a second slower than Russell on the medium. So, yeah, that's not great pace from the Mercedes, I must say, as Yuki Tsunoda on an improved lap on the prototype compound. Lando Norris, by the way, on an out lap. Tsunoda getting very aggressive with the curbs at the final chicane. Tsunoda goes up to P12 with that lap. Tsunoda up to 12. And what else are we now looking out for? Now we're looking at the Haas of Kevin Magnussen. Yes. On the soft compound tyre on an out lap. Just warming up for that first proper flyer in this session, as obviously the two Haases now 19th and 20th. Let's see what Haas have got. They weren't that good in practice 1. Maybe they were just holding back. Let's see. Magnussen, let's rip down to turn 1. And yeah, Norris and Albon on an outlap. I will let you know when I know what compound they're on and what sector times and pace in general, how it's looking. The Haas of Magnussen looking decent through the first sector, if not actually pretty good. And then, unfortunately, Sky cut to an ad break. So, whilst we're on an ad break, just want to say quickly, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, because we'll have plenty of Japanese Grand Prix updates throughout the weekend. And I will be live next, later today, at 8 PM UK time, for the qualifying preview Japanese Grand Prix. We'll go through all the data from practice 2, and also look at all the upgrades officially that all the teams brought. And of course, I will, guys, know my final predictions for qualifying at Suzuka tomorrow. Make sure to come along for that later today at 8 PM. And as well, if everyone watching, make sure to smash the like button. We're currently on 9 likes. We can definitely get a bit more than that. Let's try and go, let's try and get up to 20 plus likes if we can in the next, 20 minutes. That'd be great if we could. Just gonna have a look on Twitter to see if there's any news. And yeah, can't see anything at the moment. So yeah, we will see. Once they come back from the ad break, we'll see how the order is looking. And then, of course, once we get all of the quali runs or the quali sim runs in, and we'll get into the race sim runs towards the end of the session. Of course, we won't know from that data until after the session who's looking good for the race. But yeah, we'll find out the next 10 to 15 minutes how the teams are looking over a single lap, which will give us a good idea going forward. But Ferrari's time of what was it for Leclerc? A 31.7 on the medium. Definitely quite a bit better than what we saw in practice 1, where Carlos did I think a 32.2 or a 32.3 on the soft. So yeah, much better pace from the Scuderia. From the ad break in a few moments' time. And yeah, Mercedes, I do expect to drop down the order once Albon, Alonso, Norris, Sainz, possibly others, Perez, once they do their proper run on the soft compound tyre. Find out a few. Getting on. McLaren F1 Racers, that's why we pay our money. The Chazza premium ad breaks on Skylol. I mean, yeah. I mean, ad breaks, are disappointing in general, but at least they're doing it during practice, not like ITV used to do during the actual race itself. Oscar Piastri, we now cut to him as they come from the ad break, and he's on the soft compound tire, and he's only 0.4 of a second down on Lando Norris, who is now quickest for McLaren. There you go. That's a turn up for the books. As Oscar Piastri, half a second slower than Norris, goes only into 4th place. So there you go. McLaren laid down a marker, 131.1. Can Red Bull, and most importantly Max Verstappen, beat that? Will they even try to beat it? As we've got the Ferrari here of Charles Leclerc on a better lap on the soft tyre. Alex Albon, by the way, is now 3rd on the soft compound tyre. And then you've got Piastri 4th. Leclerc 5th, but he's on a better lap now on the soft. Valtteri Bottas, big improvement by him. Gone all the way up to 6th place. Then you've got Hulkenberg in 7th as Leclerc, 0.06 of a second up on Norris after the first 2 sectors. This is a brilliant lap for the Scuderia. And are they now starting to stretch their legs and show their muscle? As Leclerc comes to the line, and it is a 1/10.5 quicker, a 1:31.0. Sergio Perez on the soft tyre comes to the line, only goes 6th. 0.7 of a second slower than Leclerc. 4 lap time there from Perez. So it's Leclerc, Norris, Verstappen, Albon, Piastri, Perez, Bottas, Hulkenberg, Russell, and Sainz. But Sainz is now on a better lap on the soft compound tyre. And then you've got Zhou in 11th place. Carlos Sainz for the middle sector. 1/10.5 down on Leclerc. Going to have to be an amazing final sector if he's going to go any quicker. As Magnussen has gone up to 12th with Hamilton now 13th. As Carlos Sainz comes to the line, and it is 3rd, 0.2 of a second slower than his teammate. But yeah, Ferrari are looking good. And we'll see what Red Bull can do in response. As all, Tsunoda losing the rear end on the exit, second Degner. Still though, on the prototype compound. Very much interested to see what they can do on the soft compound. There's a replay of Leclerc through Degner, and he was absolutely on the edge of grip there, was Leclerc. As Max Verstappen is now on and out laps, so is Fernando Alonso. And Alonso now starts a flying lap on the soft compound tyre. Let's see what Aston Martin have got over a single lap so far. Didn't look too bad. That's what I expected coming into the weekend in practice one. See what they've got now. Car looks handling wise fine through the first sector. See what the first sector time is. And it is 0.04 of a second up on Leclerc. Leclerc, by the way, did not do a purple first sector. His first sector nearly 0.2 of a second slower than I think Verstappen he did on his best run. As Alonso already on his way to Spoon Curve. He's got some traffic ahead of him that gets out of the way. And Alonso manages that fine, and the Aston Martin car looks okay through Spoon. And now, what's his middle sector time? 0.4 of a second down on Leclerc. Not bad as I was expecting coming into the weekend, but it's not great. As Alonso through the final chicane, what will his lap time be ultimately? Comes to the line, and he goes 5th, ahead of Alex Albon. So that's actually a tad better than I expected. My expectation coming into the weekend is that Williams would be faster over a single lap compared to Aston Martin. That's not proving to be the case so far. Replay of Magnussen ducking and diving his way through traffic. The narrow S's section. And here's a replay of Zhou Guan Yu through the Degners and ran a slight bit wide through the second part, and then went a bit trigger happy with the throttle when going over the exit curb on Degner 2. Definitely would cost him at least a couple tenths of a second, if not more. Here is Max Verstappen. Oh my... I don't even know what other words to say. The first sector Verstappen has done miles quicker than everybody else, and he's now 0.3 of a second up on Leclerc after the first two sectors. Ferrari thought they had good pace. Max Verstappen is about to show them that they have no hope this weekend as he comes to the line and does a 1:30.6. Max Verstappen, for now, reigns supreme. Yeah, not just quicker, but quicker by a comfortable margin. As William Lawson up to 13th. No idea what compound he was on, as George Russell out there on another set of soft tyres. Lawson did his best time on the soft. Went ahead of Tsunoda at least, which is impressive. Russell, his first sector, not great. 0.6 of a second down on Verstappen. Can he improve on P12? Let me just correct some of the order quickly, because we've got Esteban Ocon in the top 10 now. Then you've got Hulkenberg, well, was in 11th. Lance Stroll now goes up to 10th place. So it's then Ocon 11th, Hulkenberg 12th, Russell 13th for now, and then Lawson 14th, Zhou 15th, and then Magnussen, Tsunoda, Gasly, Hamilton, Sargent, as George Russell comes to the line and goes 6.5 tenths slower than Verstappen and ends up in 5th, which is In terms of speed, that lap is about what I expected them. Yeah, how I expected their pace to be over a single lap this weekend. Fourth best team. So, yeah, can't really complain there. Yeah. At least more pace was extracted. Oh, look at the McLaren of Lando Norris out there on a set of soft tyres. Is he on an outlap? Yes, he is. Presumably, going to go for another quick lap. As also Oscar Piastri on an outlap. Most people now in the pit lane. Alex Albon as well on an outlap. Of course, soon they will be starting their race runs, but hopefully they'll hold off on that for another 5 minutes. Lando Norris comes through the final chicane and begins. Does he? See? And no, it is not a quali sim run. It is a race run. And the reason I can tell that is because he's not got DRS open into turn 1. So there you go. McLaren beginning the race run, the long run. Of course, it's vitally important for these teams to do. To find out where their performance is, how the tyres are coping around this track with the car they've got, and on average, what is the lap time they can do in comparison to others. But if that's it for the quick laps, then Max Verstappen, quickest on a 1:30.6. 0.3 of a second quicker than Leclerc. Gotta be honest, going into tomorrow, I think it's a foregone conclusion as to who's getting pole position. Because that Red Bull and Verstappen, they're just too quick around the track. And especially in the first sector, the pace advantage that Red Bull have is just too good. The Ferrari or McLaren, if they're going to fight Red Bull this weekend, they've got to improve their pace in Sector 1, if that is even possible. It continues on the start of his race run. But, yeah. Let me just come to you guys in the chat. See what you guys are having to say. McLaren from Race saying, yep, I remember them too. Lol, they took the piss when it cut from overtakes and strategic pit stops. Obviously talking about the adverts is McLaren. So him saying, let's all bow down to Max the Lion. Welcome back to Max Fest. Yeah, it looks like this is going to be a revenge weekend for Max Verstappen as Lewis Hamilton now on a lap and looks like, yeah, he is pushing. Let's see. Hamilton did have a snap of oversteer through the S's. Let's see what his first sector is like. And it is not very good. Nearly 1/10 of a second slower than his teammate in the first sector. Hamilton struggling with his single lap pace at the minute, as he runs quite wide in the hairpin. Again, not necessarily the worst line to take through that corner. Lewis Hamilton flies through Spoon. And rear end out of shape in the second half of that corner. He's really thrown it about, but it's just not quite living with him. Yeah, he's now nearly 1.1 seconds down on Verstappen after the first 2 sectors. Not going to be a good lap time. This is probably going to put him maybe not even in the top 10. As he comes to the line now, Lewis Hamilton, what time does he do? He only goes 14th. It's a 1:31.8 for, yeah, it is a 1:31.8 for Lewis Hamilton. That is not good whatsoever. And yeah, clearly, teammate. 20 minutes to go in practice 2. Much faster than Lewis Hamilton. Sky F1 have gone for another ad break. So let's just quickly go through the what do you call it? Let's quickly go through, because basically everyone now has done their quali sim for tomorrow. Let's go through how things are looking going into qualifying briefly. Of course, I will get into more depth with this, my qualifying preview later this evening. But yeah, my thoughts at the minute are, in terms of what the pecking order will be going into tomorrow, is Red Bull quickest, quite clearly. Ferrari second quickest, just ahead of McLaren, third best. Mercedes fourth. Aston Martin fifth. Williams in sixth. Then, well, possibly, yeah, Alfa Romeo seventh. And then what? Alpine, Haas, and AlphaTauri, I've got to say, not really looking that great. 15th and 18th only for AlphaTauri. I was expecting a bit better than that. So, yeah, in terms of the top 5 teams, I'm pretty confident that is the pecking order. Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, and Aston Martin in that order, with Williams only just behind the Aston Martin team. Of course, we will see tomorrow where people are. But Vince says we don't see enough ads racing around on the track. Have a quick look at Twitter for a second. See if there's any news whilst guys on an ad break. And yeah, can't see anything. Yeah, I can't see anything at the moment. The only thing I am seeing is people on Twitter mocking the people that after Singapore were saying or talking about how the technical directive, what was it, ED18, how it had affected Red Bull. Clearly, they were just waffling, as most people, most of the people who have popular accounts do. You do get some that are really, knowledgeable and great in terms of supplying info, but some people waffle purely for to get that payout, especially if they're verified. As Sky F1 now coming back from the ad break. And yeah, the order is still the same. And everyone now on track except for Lewis Hamilton, who did his quick run last. And yeah, now everybody on race run. Max Verstappen, interestingly, doing his race run for now. Prototype compound. Maybe he'll pit from that soon. Go on to a proper compound that obviously used for this weekend. I think whilst whilst this is all going on, one thing I can do is put up the gaps on screen from top to bottom. That will keep us occupied whilst there's nothing really going on. But in this session, Max Verstappen has gone a second quicker than he went in practice 1. And I think I said in my practice 1 stream that pole position normally is about 1.3 to 1.5 seconds quicker than the best time in practice 2. So, yeah, we're going to see a pole position time pretty much around about the one that we saw last year, which I think was a 129.3. The lowest I can see is probably a 29.1. But yeah, I think I'd be surprised at this point if they were to get into the 128. Happen continues on, and then you got Charles Leclerc 3/10 down. I mean, Ferrari's pace is not bad, but it's not maybe as good as I hoped. And then you've got Norris looking good. Sainz still looking decent. Sainz currently on his race run on the medium compound tyre. George Russell, I have to say, his pace looks actually looks pretty good, I would say, as a driver. Don't think there's any more he could have done with his lap. So looking good for Russell. And you've got Fernando Alonso up in 6th. Great to see. And Aston Martin do look a tad better than I expected, which is positive. But they're still not looking that quick overall. And then you've got Albon just behind him. Williams still look decent. Nothing to get down about at Williams. A bit worrying that Oscar Piastri, half a second down on Norris. I know, obviously, Piastri's never raced him. But I did think the gap would be not quite half a second. I thought it'd be more like 3/10 of a second. Which, if it was 3/10 of a second now, Piastri would be in 6th place. But it's only practice at the end of the day. See what he does tomorrow. And then you got Perez, 1 full second down on his teammate in 9th place. He needs to buck up his ideas because that is not anywhere near close to being enough from the Mexican. Then you've got just about inside the top 10, just behind Perez, the former Mercedes driver himself, Valtteri Bottas, just ahead of Lance Stroll. Once again, quite slow compared to his teammate. Got Esteban Ocon in 12th place, with Nico Hulkenberg in 13th, Lewis Hamilton 14th. And currently on his outlap to his race run, as Liam Lawson is on his race run at the minute, and on the soft compound tyre. Yeah, given how hard the compounds are this weekend, I do expect soft compound tyre to get quite a bit of action on Sunday. It won't be the best tyre for the race. The best tyre, I think, will probably be the medium. Because I think the hard tyre this weekend is too hard, a compound one. And pace on that compound is too slow for anyone to really gain massively from it. Lawson presses on with his outlap. But Lewis Hamilton, let me just check on the F1 website instead. Hamilton perpetually at the minute on an outlap. So just Hamilton now finally finishing his outlap. Get the gaps up on my end. So, yeah, Lewis Hamilton, 1.1 seconds away from Max Verstappen, and half a second slower, almost exactly half a second slower than his teammate. That is very poor, and he knows that. Need to be told. got Liam Lawson in 15th place. 1.4 seconds down. So is Zhou Guanyu. They just showed his car, by the way, on the Sky F1 broadcast, and it looked like they were taking it apart. So clearly something wrong with Zhou's car. They're quite far off the pace again compared to his teammate. 0.4 of a second exact. And then you got Magnussen just behind Zhou. Then got Yuki Tsunoda just behind Magnussen. Got to say, both Haas and AlphaTauri not looking as strong as I expected, which is disappointing because I had decent hopes for them this weekend. And then got Gasly 19th. No idea why he's nearly half a second slower than his teammate Ocon. And then Logan Sargent, no surprise, at the very back of the field. And just to prove that Logan is not good enough for Formula 1, I just throw it up on screen quick, all the gaps. There you go. Alex Albon, only 0.8 off Verstappen. And overall, Alex Albon, what? 0.75 of a second quicker. Again, just simply not good enough. And I know it's Logan's first time racing here. I get that. But still, that amount of lap time to be losing is unacceptable. Yeah, that would be... Well, it's unacceptable, period, with Logan. For asking in the chat, I do have a question. You saw every driver of the grid help Sebastian Vettel on the beat house. Alonso was there to help. Do you think Alonso did it because he was forced into, or because he respects Seb? No, I think it's just he respects Seb. I don't think he's that, he's not that over the top of a guy in terms of carrying on the maybe slight bit of bad blood from the actual racing days. But I mean, did Alonso and Vettel ever really have bad blood? Never really. I mean, they had that moment at Monza where Vettel pushed Alonso off the track slightly. But other than that, I can't think of where Alonso and Vettel really ever came to blows. And they've all, even when, they were fighting for the championships, their relationship with one another was pretty good compared to a lot of other relationships we've seen. But, yeah. I'll be honest, guys. I think, given that the teams are currently doing their race runs, and we only have a few minutes to go in practice too, I think I'm just going to bring the stream to a close because, again, there's nothing more to cover from this second practice session. So thank you guys for coming along to the Practice 2 watch along. And again, a quick reminder, go on to it, of my next two pieces of content. I will be live later tonight at 8 PM UK time for the Japanese Grand Prix qualifying preview. Make sure to join me for that to go through in more detail data from practice 2. Plus, we'll get into the car upgrades and I'll give my final prediction qualifying as well. And then tomorrow morning, live from 3:15 AM UK time all the way through till 8:30 AM, I'll be live for the Practice 3 and qualifying watch-along. Make sure to join me for that tomorrow morning to find out who takes pole position for the Japanese Grand Prix 2023. But guys, that is basically it for Practice 2. Thank you guys for coming along. Again, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. And if you want to keep up to date with the Japanese Grand Prix and the events of it, this is a great place to keep up with it. So yeah, make sure to subscribe and hit the notifications bell to be notified as to when I go live. Make sure as well to smash the like button before you go. It does help the channel grow. Would be much appreciated. And if also you want to keep up with the channel, you can follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5. It is on Twitter, and also we have the Discord server link below in the description to the Discord if you want to join our community. But guys, until my qualifying preview later tonight at 8 PM UK time, where we'll fully get into my expectations going into qualifying now that we've seen Friday practice, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.